Turn to the Egyptian Heaven and Hell by E. A. Wallis Budge. Volume 3 is called The Contents of the Books of the Other World Described and Compared. Now, I know I entitled the last one, Fourth Division of the Tuat, and this one I'm going to title the Fifth Division of the Tuat. They kind of have them divided, and they're both entitled Fourth Division of the Tuat. But anyways, so part 2, I have part 2 as this chapter, and part 1 of part 5 is, I don't know why he did that, but the pictures and texts of the division or hour in the Book of Gates is vary considerably from those in the book Yim Duat. The entity Yifu Ra appears in the boat as before with Sa and Hakau, and 4 entities tow him on his way, and he has passed through the gate, which is called Nebet Grafau, and its guardian serpent Jatbe has in no way resisted its progress. The region now entered by Yifu Ra has no connection with the land of Skur, and it appears to be a continuation of the dominions of Kunta Yamante. Immediately in front of the boat are 9 sepulchres, each containing an entity in mummified form. Those are entities who are in the following of Yusir, who dwell in their caves. And I say Yusir instead of Cyrus. And volume 2, page 123 is in there is where I've shared the reference that we're being referred to. Next comes the 12-hour demonesses who stand in 2 groups. Between the 2 groups is the monster serpent Harret, which spawns 12 serpents to be consumed by the 12-hour demonesses. As Yifu Ra goes on his way, he adjures the Duat entities to take him to the eastern part of the heaven, so that he may visit the habitations of the entity Yurs, or Sur, or not. Okay, what do we have? Oh, Yurth. Okay, that's why I was confused. I think Aris, Mars, could that be connected? The Yurth. And when he has come to them, he orders the doors to open, and he raises up the beings therein, whose souls are broken. Oh, Latin for Mars. And allots to them meat and drink. The hour demonesses are the daughters of Ra, and their work is to guide their father through the night. 6 of them represent the first 6 hours of the night, and the other 6 the last 6. So whether the night is a couple hours, or whether the night is, well, I mean, I'm not that far north. Never been that far north. Or whether it's, well, dusk right before 11, dawn at 3 something, so it wasn't that much, it wasn't that long. But the day likewise, sunrise to sunset, is divided into 12. These are here, volume 2, page 123, depicted together whilst in the book Yim Duat. Each appears in the boat of Yifu Ra in the hour to which she belongs. On the right of Yifu Ra are the 12 entities who carry their doubles. The Ka, the astral soul, as people call it. Volume 2, page 131. And who live upon the offerings which are made to them, and upon what is given to them by Just Bayu, i.e. the places of holy souls. Their duty is to offer their Kau, or doubles, the U is the plural, to the entity whom they address as the Lord of years and everlastingness, which hath no dominion. Volume 2, page 130. Oh, have no diminution. Okay, that's a whole lot different than having no dominion, isn't it? Beyond these entities are two lakes, viz. The lake of life and the lake of the living Uriah. Sorry about the squeak of my chair and stuff. Round the lake of life stand 12 jackal-headed entities who invite Yafu-Ra to bathe in it, even as the Lord of the entities did, and who state that the souls of the dead do not come near its division because it's holy. When he passes out of its division, they lift up their voices in lamentation, volume 2, page 132. The living Uriah turn back the souls from their lake, and the mere sound of the words which they utter destroys the shadows of the dead who have succeeded in coming near it. They preserve with great care the flames and fire which are in them, so that they may hurl them at the enemies of Yafu-Ra. And remember, in tarot card number 18, the moon, the jackals are around the shining lake, and you have the scarab, but you have the two. The lake is between the two realms, but in the course of his journey through the hour, Yafu-Ra passes the shrine of Kante-Yamante, the ancient entity of Abydos, which is seen on the left. Refer to volume 2, page 137. He's in mummified form, wears the white crown as benefits an entity of the south, and stands on a serpent. Now, some will say the white crown is the pineal, the red crown is the pituitary, and the thalamus is the black crown. Before and behind the shrine are the 12 entities. White crown is benefits an entity of the south and stands on a serpent. Immediately before the shrine is the flame demoness Nusrat. And before and behind the shrine are 12 entities. At the head of the first company, being Haru-Wur, are Horus the Aged. Haru-Wur addresses the entity in the shrine by the names Yusir and Kante-Yamante, and declares that he has performed the magical ceremonies which have made Kante-Yamante to be the governor of the Tuat, to such purpose that the spirits of the blessed look upon him with awe, and the dead, i.e., the damned, Matu, are in terror of him. Here we have the proof that the existence of the belief that Yusir was enabled to travel safely through the Tuat by means of the spells and incantations and magical formula and words of power which were uttered by Haru-Ur. 12 entities who were in front of the shrine ascribe praise and dominion to Kante-Yamante and declare that his son Horus has restored him his crown and crushed the enemies and made strong Yusir Kante-Yamante. To these, Yafu-Ra makes no answer, but he calls upon Haru to avenge him on those who work against him, and to cast them to the master of the lords of the pits, so that they may be destroyed. Now the pits are referred to are 4 in number, and they are filled with fire. Into these the enemies of the entities are cast, and the keepers of them are adjured by Haru to watch them and tend the fires. Who the plotters against the entity may be, it's impossible to say, but it's quite clear that one portion of the 4th division of the Tuat was a fiery hell wherein all wicked were consumed. It is interesting to note that the beings who were to the left of the boat of Yafura, Haru, is the only one whom the entity addresses. Now, remember that portion of the Quran, that mentions they plot plan, but God plots, and of course God's plots are always successful. And remember how the sun figure in the Christian myth is this avenger, this avenger and sort of, oh yeah, put those ones in hell. Of course, Matthew 7:22-23 indicates that, well, there's portions that say that indicate that Jesus doesn't have control over the hell and or the afterlife or people's judgments or whatever, but he is going to say, oh, he's going to reject people who do things in his name. And the verse before that says that taking him as, declaring he's Lord isn't, good enough. And don't declare him Lord, I mean, it doesn't say don't take him as a spiritual master. The Curie is the word. But could the four pits be the physical life, the mental, emotional, and etheric sort of lives not dedicated to the devotional service or whatever you want to call it? So the fifth division, part 2, the kingdom of Kunta Yamante Yasir, Osiris, according to the Book of Gates. The fifth, like the division of the Book of Gates, in no way resembles that in the book Tuat, and has nothing whatsoever to do with the kingdom of Skur. The entity Yafura, having passed through the gate of the division of our hour, which is called Yurt, and which has been opened, Yurit, actually, I think, and has been opened by the monster serpent Taka Hre, that guarded. It is towed along by 4 of the entities of this section of the Tuat. The ministers of this entity consist of 9 entities whose hands and arms are covered, and 12 entities who are under the direction of Hre Qanbataf. The 9 entities are called Kru Notche, i.e., those who hold the monster serpent Nduchi, and the 12 entities Ba-Eu, Yimeu Tuat, i.e., the souls of men who who dwell in the Tuat. See Volume 2, page 144, 145. The exact functions of Atchi are not known, but the presence is baleful, and Yafura straightway calls upon a group of entities to destroy him. The entity would press on to the next gate, Nibut Ahau, but Anutche can travel to that point, and he must therefore be removed. And we are a city of 9 gates. Our bodies are a city of 9 gates, and psychically and spiritually comes forth from these the rainbow serpent. So the gatekeepers, but as the afterlife or the spiritual realms are kind of connected to what is here, well, in life we're kind of trapped, but we never leave this physical body out of a body of experiences, or well, we're still this body doesn't die. The next group, so when we go beyond the gates with the rainbow body and stuff like that, it's not, we're still here. The next group of entities is of particular interest The next group of entities is of particular interest, for they represent the souls of those who have spoken what is right and true upon earth, and who have magnified the forms that the entity of the demon Ra. In return for such moral rectitude and piety, Yafu Ra orders Hare Kanbataf to invite them to sit at peace in their habitations and in the corner of those who are with myself, where praise shall be sung to their souls, and where they shall have air in abundance to breathe. They shall, moreover, have joints of meat to eat in Suksat Yaru. Besides this, offerings shall be made to them upon earth, even as they are to the entity Hatpe, the so-called Lord of Suksat Hatep. See Volume 2, page 144 and 146. Now, from these statements, some very interesting deductions may be made. In the first place, it is now certain that there was a place specially set apart for the souls of men in the Tuat, and that those who were allowed to enter it had lived a life of moral rectitude, and have followed after righteousness and integrity when they were upon earth. Secondly, they were allowed to live in the corner of the Suksat Hatep with the great entity himself, in the place where, as we know from the papyrus of Yeneh, see above, page 44, most wonderful grain grew. Thirdly, an everlasting supply of offerings was made upon earth. An everlasting supply of offerings made upon earth was assured to them. And in this respect, they were co-equal with Hatepe, the chief entity of the field of peace, or field of offerings. Thus, the region of Yusur undoubtedly taught that those who were good on this earth were rewarded in the next world. So it's not just, whether we look at the fact that a higher IQ is present in insane people and certain types of criminals, or otherwise, you kind of think it would go beyond just being really smart or something. It's a goodness of character and doing, of course, the consciousness of devotion and all that's laid forth. On the right of Yafu Ra are 12 entities called Hameu, Yemeu, Tuat, those who sing praises in the Tuat, and 12 entities called Kru and Nohoem Tuat, i.e., those who hold the cord in the Tuat. Astral projection doesn't need a cord, but think about that cord thing again. What does that mean? Because you can be alive and visit the Tuat. That's sort of being implied there, don't you think? And the 4 Hanbu entities, Volume 2, page 148 through 150. The first company of entities are, as we learn from the text, engaged in praising Yafu Ra, and they have been rewarded with the exalted office which they hold in Yamut, because they praised Ra at sunrise and sunset when they lived upon earth, and because Ra was satisfied with what they did for him. They enjoy, moreover, a share of the offerings which are made to the entity. A little beyond the Henyu are the entities who hold the measuring cord, and by the orders of the great entity, they go over the fields of Yimut, Yimentet, or is it Yimentepet, and measure the mark of the plots of ground which are to be allotted the Ku, or spirits of the righteous. Each spirit is judged by the God of law and righteousness, and only after a strict examination he is allowed to take possession of his allotment. As there seems to have been only one standard of moral and religious excellence, all the allotments were probably of the same size. Well, representing all the minute differences or not doesn't necessarily say that. The food of the spirits who live in the homesteads, which have been the measure in Suksat Yaru, comes from the crops which grow in that region, and the 4 Hanbiu entities who superintended the measuring of the fields are ordered to provide sand, that is to say, soil for the replenishing of the grounds. Now, remember how in Orientalist sources and such like that, they forget that there's a difference between an entity and a god. And yes, all sorts of things were worshipped, but that doesn't mean they're actually gods, and that doesn't mean that any spiritual being we hear about is a god. But that's what's being talked about, and well, there's sort of the male and the actually male and female ones are what we could Jinn, Firebean, Davas, Divs, Asuras, Oadriaks, many other terms for it. The beings who are in the left are Yafura in this division are not less interesting than those on the right. Well, matter of opinion, I guess. Among these are 4 representations of the 4 great classes into which the Egyptians divided mankind, namely the Rech or Remph, the Nehessu, the Themahu, and the Aamu. See Volume 2, page 153. Hopefully there were characters so you could correct one's pronunciation. Of these, the Rech, i.e. the men par excellence, were Egyptians who came into being from the tears which fell from the eye of Ra. The Themahu, or Libyans, were also descended from the eye of Ra. The Aamu were the people of the deserts of the north and east of Egypt, Sinai, etc., and the Nehessu were the black tribes of Nubia and Sudan. So, ding, 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 and here. Oh, I got the order wrong, didn't I? Okay, yeah. It is noteworthy that the members of each nation or people keep together. The representatives of the 4 nations are followed by 12 entities who are called Kru Ahau Yamant, i.e. the holders of the time of life in Yamant, who hold the serpent Metrui. These remarkable beings have in their hands the power to determine the length of life which is to be meted out to the souls who have been doomed to destruction in Yamante. That is to say, they were able to defer the doom which has been decreed for souls, though in the end they were compelled to carry out the edict of destruction. And close the connection with these entities are the Jau, are the great chiefs who were believed to write out the edicts of destruction upon the damned. So Volume 2, page 156. To record the duration of lives of those who were in Yamentet, to the fact that they appear to have been registers of Yasir, and to have served in some respects in recording angels. From what we have From what has been said above, it will be clear that all the scenes and texts which illustrate and describe the kingdom of Skr have been omitted from the Book of Gates, and the first 5 sections of this work describe 1. The antechamber of the Tuat, 2. The divisions of the kingdoms of Punta Yamante, which extend from Abydos to a region little to the north of Memphis. We may now proceed to consider the kingdom of Yusur, the so-called Lord of Mendes and Busiris. And to prove, one of the things that a person can say about such mythologies is look at their, whatever is in charge. Ultimately, the idea is that they are not only does creation do its own work, but creation is witnessing creation constantly, and everything is all laid out. The judgment's confirmed, the witnessing is confirmed. It's not just God against man or something like that. Sharma.